In this video, I want to go over something pretty special. I want to go over my entire content ecosystem because that's what people like. That's what is super popular. I mean, one of my courses, 2-Hour Writer, was a very popular course, but I'm going to go over the 80-20 here so that you have it for free. But in a nutshell, what it is 2 hours a day of writing plus 1 day a week of recording equals content, good content, preferably, for all platforms. Now, the problem here that we're going to talk about in this last section, and I'm actually going to go over a visual example of how I do this every week because I'm doing it right now. So what better way to teach it than to show what I'm doing at this very moment? Now, the problem here is that this is a lot. Like, doing this content ecosystem it came from the process of experimentation, iteration, and persistence over time, over the past 6 years for me. I started from scratch. I didn't have AI. I had to do it all on my own. I had to learn. I had to look at how other people were writing. I had to read about writing. I had to learn about it. I had to understand what caught people's attention, what worked, what made people want to follow you, what made people want to buy from you, what made people trust you, all of these other things. So while I can't just give you 6 years of experience and just pop it into your mind, I can give you a way to reach it faster because we live in the age of AI, and you can plug my stuff or anyone's stuff into it and have it break down exactly why it works. And that's a much more effective way of learning. If you take one of my newsletters, pop it in AI, and you have a good prompt that breaks it down, then after that, you can take that breakdown and then you can turn it into potentially your own content ideas, or you can converse back and forth to refine your content ideas. And that starts you off on a much, much, much better foot. The way that you will fail with this is if you have the AI write for you and just post it and not learn anything along the way, because you're just going to contribute to the pile of slop that is going straight to the bottom of the barrel. The people who can consistently iterate and evolve as time goes on are going to be the ones at the top because they're not taking the easy route. Anyone can access the easy route. That's exactly how it becomes commoditized and worthless. So let's just get straight into this. This is the actual content ecosystem, and I'll try to make sense of this the best I can. What I do every single week, so 1x a week, is I write one newsletter. That is like the cornerstone. That is honestly the cornerstone of my day. That's what makes my days enjoyable and ordered. That's what I wake up to, right? That's the single task on my mind when I wake up is, what am I writing about today? What part of the newsletter am I in? How do I make this really good? I sit down, I open the newsletter in a canvas or inside of here, and I just start writing. Now, of course, there's a step before that, which we're going to go over and where do ideas come from. But just big picture, I write the newsletter for about 30 to 60 minutes every morning. That's like my gas tank. I don't know why. In terms of quality writing, the longer I sit and stare, the worse it just gets, right? So I give myself 30 to 60 minutes, and I'll only write like a section of the newsletter, which is like 400 to 800 words, maybe even less than that. And that makes it a lot more palatable because then I write 5-6 days out of the week, record 1 day for YouTube, and I'm good to go. For a lot of people, that's very palatable. And you don't understand that the newsletter, since you're writing about ideas, you're developing them much deeper. You can spin those off into posts. So you don't need to really think about individual posts. It all just comes down to, can you spend 30 to 60 minutes writing a newsletter in the morning? If you have the idea flow to do that, then the rest of your content just comes after that. So the next thing here is that 1 day a week, I sit with my newsletter in front of me on the screen, and I will turn on a camera like this with my lighting and whatever. I literally just turn it on, hit record, turn on Audacity where I record the mic, and I look into the camera. I look at my newsletter, I read a bit of it, and then I'm like, okay, how should I phrase this? Or should I just say it directly? And then I'll say it to the camera. Sometimes I'll mess up. That's okay. On a video, that's why you cut the video. It's good. Look, right here is a cut, and you barely even notice that, right? A lot of people are afraid that they're going to mess up. You can sit in front of the camera for 3 hours. It doesn't matter. Just cut out the blank spots and you'll have a pretty good video. Now, when I reach a point in my newsletter where I have like quotes, or I don't want to mess up something that I said that I thought was very articulate, or I have a graphic to show, I look down and I just read it directly from the newsletter like so. And since I'm looking down, that means when I edit it or my editor edits it, he needs to put something over the screen. That can be B-roll, stock footage, that can be a text screen, that can be a quote screen. Look one up. If you don't know how to design one, just look up quote screen designs on Google and then emulate it with your own branding. And then the next thing there is, one, I post that video and then I also post it to a podcast. You can use something like Spotify for creators and then it just goes on to the podcast. You can also post it to Substack. So now you have like a newsletter and YouTube video and podcast combo on Substack, and now your Substack is a lot more valuable than most people's. Now, what happens after this? Every single day, I post 1 to 3 short form written posts a day, because those are easy to do, right? It's 280 characters. You write it into Twitter, you copy paste that to Threads, you copy paste that to Substack, maybe even LinkedIn. But I write 1 to 3 of those a day, and those can come in one of two ways. They can come directly from the newsletter. So I read the newsletter and I don't just try to like pull quotes out of it, because a lot of people try to do this with like podcast clips or YouTube clips. They'll clip a portion of them, but then like there's no hook, there's no body, there's no value. You're trying to clip something to package it up and make it good, when you could just like turn it into another idea itself, which is what we're doing here. So I read the newsletter and then I'm like, okay, what is the entire newsletter trying to say? That's a big idea. I try to encapsulate that in 280 characters. What's this entire section trying to say? What's another way of saying this quote of this quote? So the newsletter can inspire post ideas, or if you're just going about day-to-day life, you're reading and an idea comes to mind, then turn that into a post as well. And then posts can inspire the newsletter topic itself, which we'll talk about soon. Oh, another thing that I want to mention here before we continue is that if you want to duplicate this template, to go over it and just have it in your workspace, you can. There's a link in the description. And what I'm actually using, I'll let you, actually won't let you duplicate that one because I'm going to be writing in it. But you can just follow along with the next one if you want to do it on a canvas, which you may want to after I illustrate why we do it here. But you can sign up to Eden at eden.so and then just create a new canvas and start following along. So I have 1 to 3 posts across different social platforms a day, and then I take the best ones or the most validated ideas, and then I either turn those into a carousel. So it's quite literally, I copy paste the text, I open Figma or Canva, I paste the text into an image or Photoshop, whichever you want to use. I download that, turn them into a carousel, post it, add a caption, whatever. And then for the really good ones, I start the reel or YouTube short or TikTok, just like I literally just sit here again, I crop this part out in the editor so it's like a vertical video. And I just read the post to the camera. I look at the post. I don't read it directly, but I look at the camera and then I say what it is. And sometimes I'll riff, sometimes I won't. But then after that, I add a bit of commentary on. So it's not exactly the same post that I posted to other platforms. There's an addition to it. And so now I do that 3 to 4 times a week with 3 to 4 of the posts that I got. I literally just sit in front of the camera after I record my YouTube video and I open up my Twitter and I scroll down and I'm like, is this one good? Okay, let's say it to the camera and then expand on it a bit. And then, okay, is the next one good? Okay, say it to the camera. And then I have a batch of 4 to 6 videos that I can go in and cut pretty easily. So with that alone, and you have content for every single platform out there, you can just spread it across all of them. You're doing more than most people, and then you can double down on which one is working for you, double down on the ideas that are working for you. And that's how you grow in a nutshell. Of course, there's minor nuances here and there, but that's the content ecosystem that you're here to learn about. Now, the bread and butter here is like, okay, well, how do you grow your newsletter? How do you grow your YouTube? Because it's not like social media. Your newsletter doesn't have an algorithm. You have to actually send people to it, and it grows over time and it becomes the most valuable asset in your content portfolio. Same with YouTube, same with any long form. Those grow more over time with occasional spikes in growth. But what you do here with all of your posts and all of your carousel and short videos, what I try to do, at least, this is difficult unless it's systemized and you stick to it, but you link to one relevant newsletter a day. What most people try to do when they're growing their newsletter is they link to a lead magnet, or they just link to the newsletter and say, hey, join my newsletter. That's not effective at all. It just doesn't really work. Lead magnets work, sure, but from what I've tested over the past 6 years, just linking to a relevant newsletter under a post and saying, if you want more, read this newsletter, meaning you're going to need Substack or Beehive or some other way of linking the newsletter publicly. I personally like Substack because you can cross-post your tweets there as well, but your Substack is like a website pretty much. Like I don't even use my actual thedanco.com website anymore since I have my Substack. And then I just link to the post directly under my tweet. And I say, if you want to read more about a similar idea, read this. People read it. And if your newsletter is good and valuable, not only do you have links to your products and services in there, so you're making sales, but people are also probably going to subscribe because they want more. So that's how I make sales. That's how I grow my newsletter in general. So that's the entire content ecosystem. That's it. It'll take like a week or two to actually get into the flow. It's not going to work automatically, but that's it. So where do these ideas actually come from? Where do ideas for newsletters that turn into YouTube videos come from? Where do post ideas that you don't get from your newsletter come from? And there's a few different ways. The first that I recommend most people starting out with is just top performing posts. So you follow people on social media, you see ideas that do very well. That means there's signal there, right? You don't want to overdo this and become a trend jacker, but this is like the key to growth is you kind of have to do what works in your own way. So what you do is you scroll on social media until you see something that has done pretty freaking well. And when you are posting your own content, eventually your own content does very well. And then you can refer back to those when you know you need a bit of growth. And we'll talk about what to actually do with these in a second. Like, how do you actually emulate them? How do you not just copy them? We don't want to do that. We obviously don't want to plagiarize, but we do want to steal like an artist, right? That's just what you do for part of your content, right? Not all of your content is going to be new and novel and super original like you want it to be. And that's perfectly fine. People don't even want that to begin with. They want what works. You go on social media and you see the same idea 1,000 different times a month and you don't care. You like it. That's what you want. So the next place where you can get ideas is just curating a swipe file. What this means is like you're screenshotting or you're taking pictures of a quote from a book that you read, or you're screenshotting a thumbnail that you see that was really good and you want to at least keep in your back pocket. You're creating an idea museum is a better word for a swipe file. But a swipe file, what it is like a marketing term. So when people see copywriting or really good landing pages or ads that do really well, they know, oh, okay, there's signal here. I need to save this and I need to emulate it. So they save it to a file. And then when it comes time to create the landing page, copy or ads, they refer to it and use multiple of the sources as inspiration for their own. So if you want to do this, again, I'd recommend using Eden because it's like a drive. You can upload videos, you can add your screenshots, you can paste social media links, as you see here, paste a link, YouTube, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Substack, RedNote, and you can add those to a swipe file folder, or you can just ask the AI, hey, create a swipe file folder structure for me that I can save things to, and then I'll send links to you, and then you organize them accordingly and import them to my workspace. But when you add an image, we read the image. So you can search for it, you can access it, you can ask AI about it, so on and so forth. So that's what I'd recommend. And let's say you're trying to generate YouTube title ideas. If you have a folder filled with great thumbnails and titles, then you just plug that entire folder into AI and help ideate your own based on the newsletter you wrote or the YouTube video that you're going to do. Now, the next place, again, is just top performing YouTube videos, right? You don't want to only get ideas from social media. And especially when you're ideating a newsletter that's going to turn into a YouTube video, you kind of want to optimize the title of the newsletter for YouTube, and that acts as like a first round test. So if your newsletter doesn't do too well, then maybe you should reconsider what the title is going to be when you put it on YouTube. Now, the last and most important place to generate ideas from is just your brain. You need to practice thinking. You need to practice generating ideas because it kind of is a skill. You need to get into the flow of it. So what I personally recommend, the practice that I recommend, is going on a walk, scheduling a walk in your day, sometime, morning, afternoon, night, whatever it may be. That way, when you write down ideas on the walk, you have something to wake up to so that you can implement those ideas in your newsletter or in your social posts. There's been so many times where my newsletters are so easy to write because I'll just think about the topic that I'm writing about on the walk and ideas will start to come to mind. And then I literally write the newsletter in a very broken way in my notes. And then I just open that in the morning and then string that together in my newsletter. And once the Eden mobile app is out, you can just do that in there. And then inside of here, you can quick capture notes to your library so you don't have to worry about sorting them in your actual workspace. And then you can just drag that onto the canvas next to your newsletter and start writing about it. Now, the other thing here is that you just need to be good at extracting ideas from conversations and reflecting on your life and thinking about, oh, what theme of life am I in? What lessons did I learn when I went through this period? Am I actually doing things that will allow me to have unique ideas, or am I living the same life over and over and over again? So now the last and final part here, we're moving through this quick just because a lot of this does really come down to practice. And frankly, if I were to go through okay, how do I write my newsletter? That's going to be an entire course. Maybe I'll do a workshop on that at some point. Join my Substack just so if I do that, you're notified of it. I plan to do a bit more Substack lives in the future. But for now, what you can do, since I'm not really going to teach you the ins and outs of my writing process because it's a lot and there's a lot of frameworks, right? That's another video or something else. I'm not going to teach you how to write tweets just yet because again, that's another video. But what you can do instead is you can use this prompt that I created for you that breaks down how content is written, because that's what I would do in the videos for you anyways, is I'd break down, here's how I created this YouTube video, here's how I created this tweet, here's how I created this newsletter. So if we look at this actual content breakdown, you can see it analyzes the macro, so the overall structure of the piece, and then the micro, so the key moments, transitions, turning points, how does it guide people through? Then the psychological tactics, so it identifies them by named frameworks. So you learn a lot just by doing this, by breaking down content. And you're kind of creating your own course module when you do this, when you do it enough times for breaking down content. And the other thing here is that with the psychological tactics, that's why the content works. That's why it captures attention. That's what most people are missing. And why studying these and doing this will help you create your own path to learning this and then taking that and implementing it in your own writing, or looking at your own writing and saying, oh, okay, this is why mine didn't do this well. Let me take one little thing from this content that I broke down and apply it this week. And then that's kind of locked in. That's in your toolbox. And then you do it again and again and again. And you have your own way of doing things at that point. And the last thing it does is it gives you a replication guide. So it pretty much teaches you, let's just go through this and I'll show you how it does it. What I have here and throughout here, right here, this How to Fix Your Entire Life in One Day. This is the article that broke Twitter. I posted this article on Twitter and it is the most viewed article, according to Twitter, in Twitter history. So that means it's a very high performing article. It means it's something that people are going to emulate and have already been emulating. I saw Mark Manson created a YouTube video titled How to Fix Your Entire Life in One Day. And I used to get mad at that, but I know he has his own content and way of saying things within. So that's just a part of the game. I think it's fine. And I'm kind of honored that Mark Manson would do that. So what I can do here is just say, break down this newsletter using the prompt. But you can use any model here. Just know that Opus 4.6 and Claude Sonnet is going to be kind of expensive. If you're okay with that, then do it. You can use any other model in here and it'll probably break it down just fine because the prompt is good. But as we're waiting for this breakdown here, and it's creating a note for us that we can open, You can do this with any type of content. Like you don't only have to break down a newsletter. I saw this video did really well. If you go to Daniel Presley's YouTube channel, this is one of his most popular videos. So if you don't know what to start with in content, then first understand what platform you're really trying to grow on, and then go to that. If it's YouTube, create a list of 5 to 10 people that are talk about similar things as you, go to their channel, go to the most popular tab, and then take note of 2 to 3 videos that you could talk about, that you have the knowledge to talk about on your own. Copy and paste those titles, or just paste the link to the YouTube video in a canvas like this, and then connect it to the content breakdown. And then you'll kind of have a framework for creating your first piece of content that'll be so much better than what you would create without this. The same thing goes for like an Instagram reel. This is by Jude Fredman, I believe. And this reel did really well. So why wouldn't I break it down, understand why it works, and apply it to my next reel if it fits my vibe? Same thing goes with like tweets or really anything. This one did really well. I should break it down, learn why it worked, and lock that knowledge into my head. So I think this is creating like an actual comprehensive content breakdown, but that's why it's taking a long time. We'll see it after. It'll show up here. Okay, yeah, it's writing. But what we can do after this is turn this into something else, right? What I would recommend doing is you take the content breakdown and you just have that up next to the content you're trying to write. And you just like learn through struggle, right? If you don't want to struggle as much and you want some hand holding, then what you can do is create a prompt out of the content breakdown that helps you do a few things. You can do anything with a prompt, but you can turn it into something that drafts ideas for you, or you can have it do something that coaches you on how to do it. So if you were to create a new chat here and you were to connect the meta prompt, and read through the meta prompt because it'll be good. But here I can say, I want to create a prompt that happens in 2 phases. That's how I usually create prompts. The first phase is context gathering. You need to interview me with all the questions necessary in order to do your job well. Phase 2 is you're going to actually generate the output or do what you're supposed to do. So if I'm trying to have it outline a newsletter for me based on my own ideas, then phase 1 of the prompt has to be interviewing me so it has enough original thought and ideas to create an outline with a similar structure that I can then use to then fill out my newsletter. And if I go the coaching route, then I can say, you need to interview me on what I want to do, what my ideas are, so on and so forth. And then the output is going to be like, give me one idea that I can write about. And then you're going to guide me through actually writing the newsletter next to me. And so I have my newsletter next to this chat. And then I just say like, guide me through this. And then I can even link the newsletter here and say, oh, here's my progress so far. How does this look? So now if we want to look at what this breakdown came up with, I just remembered, I should know this. But when you're creating a canvas, you can select a folder that you want items that you add to the canvas saved to, right? By default, it's going to go into your library unorganized if you don't want to worry about organizing it. But when I'm working on a newsletter project, I create a specific folder for that project. So anything I add to this canvas, like a YouTube video that isn't already in my workspace, it's going to go into the folder I select here. So the same thing happens with this breakdown. The AI chat puts it in the folder I'm in. So if we look at this, I'm actually not going to go over this, but you can see here, it was a very long breakdown. So this is a lot of useful information. Like if you read through this like a module in a course, then you're going to do just fine, right? Like this is something you would get in like a deep coaching session. Like this is very, very, very specific knowledge that you're also not going to get from AI out of the box. So if you want the template to this, hopefully that was helpful. Oh crap, I still need to show how I actually do this. Okay. We're still going. So as promised, here is how it like actually looks when I'm writing content on a weekly basis. So I create the canvas. It's a blank canvas. I set the folder to the newsletter folder that I'm creating in. And the first thing I do, you don't need to like add titles here. I think it looks pretty and I'm presenting to you, so it should look pretty, but usually it's pretty freaking messy. as it should be as a creative, right? But what I do is, one, I have the topic first. So I know I have a vague idea of what I'm going to write about. I don't have the title first for the newsletter or YouTube video. I create that after the newsletter is actually written. So that way I can take the best parts from the actual newsletter and turn that into a title. So because I am not good at getting the title right the first time around. Sometimes I've done that, sometimes I haven't. But now what I do, the first thing I do, I don't start writing the outline or the newsletter. Instead, I add inspiration. So I look for tweets that I've written about this topic in the past. I look through my swipe file to see, are there any other ideas that are kind of relevant to this? I could even ask AI. I could add an AI chat here and just say, search through my workspace. Is there anything that slightly relates to this newsletter topic that I'm writing about? What about in my book, right? That's another thing I should have added here, is my 2 books, because those have a lot of related ideas to what I could write about. But I pasted tweet links in here. I added a previous newsletter of mine just by searching for it and adding it in here. You can add items from your workspace here. Another thing that I failed to mention is you can also generate images, video, audio, batch image generation, so on and so forth from here, because Eden is sick. And then last, the thing that inspired this newsletter for me in the first place was listening to a video from Alex Hormozy on his Hormozy Highlights channel, where he just talks about the difficulty of business. And there was one idea that I got from it that I wrote down here, is that business is like rolling the dice. Sometimes you get a red streak, sometimes you get a green streak, so on and so forth. And I connected an AI chat here. This is kind of how I do my research, is I don't really need to take notes on this. If I can just capture the video and then ask AI for the specific part of the video, and then I can converse with it and ideate. But when I heard this idea, I was like, I've experienced that a lot, not only in the business I'm currently running, but just in my life in general. And that brings a new frame to the content. I want to give my own personal experience, because this is knowledge and experience that I have, and it's a good idea. This video honestly didn't do the best, but I think I can create a good video out of it and have a title that makes it do better. So now in this research and inspiration section, there have been times where I had like 6 YouTube videos here, because I'm doing like a major synthesis, and I'll have AI chats all over the place, and I'll just be asking questions, and I'll be bouncing back and forth between my newsletter and outline. And in most softwares, like, you can open something in a pane like this, and you can maybe open another one, or you can have tabs, but it just isn't the same as having everything in one view. That's why we created the canvas in the first place, because confining everything to a single AI chat that you just copy paste everything into, or having so many different things open, it's just not that conducive to creative work. You spend more time managing the knowledge rather than actually creating. And so I ask questions here and just get the ideas that I want to get. And then I have this newsletter outline. I could provide an outline for this, but what I recommend doing, if you don't know how to outline or ideate a specific newsletter, just write this down right now. Audience, hyperbolic truths, pain points, novel perspective, unique mechanism, and core takeaway. This is almost what I use for every newsletter, even if it's done unconsciously and I don't do it in the outline, because this is what makes long form content good. So the audience is, okay, who am I actually targeting? Hyperbolic truths, that's kind of my own thing. That's what can I say that is kind of extreme, but I believe is true, at least for my situation and the audience that I'm talking to. The pain points, this can come from a personal experience or just what you observe in the world or what you observe in another person. And this usually starts the introduction of the actual newsletter. Then the novel perspective, which came from Alex Hormozy's video, where it's like, the game hasn't changed. People are using AI, but people aren't doing anything with it. How do you become successful? You have to persist and iterate until you hit your green streak. But then you also have to understand that your green streak isn't going to last and you're going to have a red streak. And that doesn't mean that it's all over. It just means that you have to continue to persist and iterate until the next green streak. And overall, your baseline rises and you eventually reach this point of success, which you never really reach in the first place. But then the third section of my newsletter is usually like actionable, practical steps. This is the structure of like all of my newsletters. Is pain point is the introduction, novel perspective or concept is the second section, unique mechanism, so steps, okay, what do I actually do? And how is it unique and how is it impactful? That's the third and last section. And the core takeaway fuels the unique mechanism. So it's like, what am I actually trying to get people to do here? What's going to make people leave and think, man, that newsletter or YouTube video was really good. It was really life-changing. I have to make sure that these are fulfilled throughout the newsletter. As I have the outline here, I can write inside of the newsletter. And then as I'm writing the newsletter or any of this, I have a post-writing note inside of here, which you can just Shift N to create or create new note. And then I write potential social media post ideas, and then I'll just take those and post those right away. And that handles some of my content. Now, the next thing I do here, because I don't really have AI write for me, but I do use it for idea generation in general. So what I'll do is I'll create an AI chat here for the YouTube title generator. I'll connect my finished newsletter to it, and I'll just say, help me generate YouTube title ideas for this. And usually none of them really make the cut, but they give me inspiration to then create my own. Same thing with B-roll generator. So my editor can come in here because this is collaborative and he can be in my workspace, and this is a drive so we can store all of our videos and stuff in here so you can download them to edit them, so on and so forth. I'll do the same thing, create an AI chat, connect this, say give me B-roll ideas, and then my editor can go through there, and that puts him in a much better spot because he's not searching through stock footage in a way that's like super random and time consuming. He knows exactly what he's searching for. And we structured this in a way where the B-roll ideas or images or whatever is very like tailored to our brand. And then what I can do here is same thing. The newsletter is the cornerstone. So I'm going to create a new AI chat down here, connect the tweet drafts. This is filled with my previous tweets so that I can see ideas from the newsletter in the structure of a tweet and generate ideas that way. Deep post ideas is another prompt I've written, and it just helps me, like, it doesn't write any posts actually. It just breaks down the core themes of the newsletter into various things like a core paradox and key quotes and other things that help me generate ideas very well. So I do the same thing there. Now, one thing I'm experimenting with that I want to show you, because I'm not good with image or video generation yet, but as I showed you earlier, there's the image and video generation blocks. But the hope is that my editor can create our own B-roll. So I can add an image of me, and then we can add like a scene or take a picture of my room or something so I don't have to be there. And then we can create an image and iterate on that image until it looks like something that can be turned into a video. And then it can turn into a video. And sometimes these aren't that good, but that's actually not bad. That would work as B-roll. You see the classic like AI fadeaway, but that kind of works. And one that I did here that I actually like quite a bit is I took this guy, put him in a forest, put him on a road in an image generator, and then I tried multiple different things. So the first video was here. You can see him walking up in a cinematic way. I thought this was pretty good. This looks good. I could put myself in here. I should have done that. But then you can see another variation, which I believe is this guy walking forward, different outfit, different setting. Like, that's cool. That's really cool B-roll. So I'm still experimenting with this. Feel free to experiment with it as well. But eventually, once I get the workflow down and understand image and video generation quite well, then I'll do that. But that's it. Again, templates and my Substack, if you want updates on all this stuff, in the description. I'm also posting these videos to the Substack. So if you just want those delivered straight to your email, then again, subscribe to the Substack. If you want to try Eden, try it. We have a very cool feature coming next for custom agents. And I think that's going to change the game. I won't say too much yet. Yes, it's very similar to Notion custom agents and OpenClaw, but we have a little bit of an edge, and we'll just see how it goes. So if Eden starts to get big, you were here early. Thank you for supporting it. If you do decide to sign up and support it, we're just a small team of, like, we fluctuate between 5 to 8 to 10 people. So you're supporting us. If you do so, we're self-funded, no investors yet, but we may need some because AI is very expensive. So that's it. I'll stop rambling. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next co tutorial. Bye.